The Ho229 Horten is absolutely garbage. Let me tell you why that is. So, the Horten on paper seems pretty great. You have a plane that's decently fast with an absolutely insane turn rate. There are a few issues with this thing, however, that aren't too massive, but they compound into a very big problem. To start off, to list everything. The guns are inaccurate, the guns have a low rate of fire. It loses a lot of speed in maneuvers. It doesn't get a lot of speed back very quickly because of the subpar engines. Your roll rate compresses at higher speeds, and your roll rate becomes unusable at lower speeds because you do not have the airflow. And you do not have a rudder. And all these things together make it pretty damn painful to actually fly this thing. You have to shoot someone down. Let's look at it this way. We're gonna look at these A2Ds. This is a perfect example on when it does work, and it completely relies on them getting slow with you. So right now I'm flying over these two A2Ds. They have a very good climb rate, but other than that these guys do not pose much of a threat, and I have them energy trapped at a relatively low speed. And at these speeds this plane is pretty damn nasty. The problem is I started with an advantage and I'm firing a prop, and the turn rate here, as you can tell when someone cannot move, is very good. If they are styled out and you can drop on top of them, this thing is an absolute killer. The problem is getting into that position. Right now I can do this energy trap all day long because I'm directly above them, they have to pitch up for me, and I can just rotate around my own axle, which is great. The problem is, and it's starting to show its ugly head right here, I'm getting trouble rolling in. I have a very hard time here trying to get guns on. You're seeing this, right? How hard it is for me to actually maneuver my plane where I want it to go. And you can argue, if you play this thing for 600 hours, maybe you'll get something good out of it. The potential of this plane is there. The problem is you cannot control the plane like you want it to, and it's extremely situational. And keep in mind, I'm only going 250 now. After a few maneuvers, luckily the A2D is crit and it's an A2D, so I can easily just sit on a 6 and shoot him down a little bit later. I then get absolutely slammed by the BI-1 in the match, but I'm not gonna waste your time with that. So one of the problems is the rudder, the low rate of fire, and the very inaccurate guns. You can see these guns go all over the place, which in itself again isn't an issue, but the low rate of fire paired with the inaccuracy makes it so that even when you get the nose on them, you might not even get the hit in. So you are forced to almost turn it into a prolonged fight, and in prolonged fights you will lose too much energy. So even though you might be able to get the shot, if they are reacting to you and just roll out of the way, they will bleed you out of energy even though you keep getting your nose closer and closer to them, until a certain point where you're just out of energy and you're gasping for energy. You're trying to find something to cling on to and there is nothing there. Almost every time, unless people are styled out, but you are not fast enough to play like a vulture like that. You get ran down quite often, and if you get ran down and you are forced on the defensive, you are even more in a problem, but it depends on what the enemy does. If it's 2 on 1, kiss rats goodbye, because it's almost impossible to actually kill one of them and then turn it into a 1v1. By the time you actually kill the first guy and it is 1v1, you're probably gonna go 300 and the enemy is going 6, maybe even 700, and you kind of just rolled over, pointed your ass up and said, yeah, please shove it in right now. There is not much you can do at that point. And this makes this plane extremely frustrating because there is a lot of potential in it. The problem is just the way you have to get your guns on ruins this plane. The retention with the top speed and the turn rate altogether are, well, they are something, but they are workable. But look at my ability to get my nose on. Sure, I turn around my own axle, but the second they turn their turning axis, I cannot follow. And I'm just bleeding speed. This guy was stalled out. If I was in any other plane, he would have died in the first pass. Of course, when he's going about 300 on the deck, I can shoot a few rounds at him because he do have almost infinite amount of ammo because of the low rate of fire, as well as the fact that I have 340 rounds. But it doesn't alleviate anything. This plane is immensely frustrating to fly. And I say this very often, but I think I found my new most hated plane, and I keep finding a plane that I hate more than the last one. But this thing takes the cake for me because you feel the potential is there. You also get so close to killing people so often, just for the rounds to go around them, just for the rounds to fly around them because of the inaccuracy, or just them not doing damage. And this makes it so damn frustrating to fly, and I don't think I've gotten as mad flying this thing as I have with any other plane. The MiG-23M on release was better, the Mirage 3E on release was better. There's so many planes that I just loathed to fly, like the Saab 105 OE. And no, don't tell me that thing is good because you go 2-1, I do not care. That thing is not good in the current matchmaker. Maybe in tank LB, not in air. But this thing basically takes all your ability to control the plane and throws it out the window. It's so sluggish. And even when you get in the speed range that allows you to actually do something, you are very likely to end up with nothing. You just end up with nothing. This thing used to be absolutely bonkers. It retained speed quite well, it didn't really stall out, and it could do loops for days. But now it's kind of left in this sad shell. It is a match that I'm not planning to win. 2 guys crit. The R2Y2 is on R6 and he's slower because I came in pretty fast. He had to pitch up for us. So all I have to do now is just go up and over. And this R2Y2 is basically dead. I'm looking at the J29, seeing what he's doing. He doesn't seem to be actually trying to go for us. So I'm just going to finish up the R2Y2 and then I'll focus my attention to the J29. So again, in this kind of scenario, the Horten is almost unbeatable. He's not fast enough to get away, but look at his damage. It does absolutely nothing sometimes, and this makes it just oh so frustrating on top of all the other problems that it already has. Now Meteor Mark 8 coming in and I'm diving, trying to pick up a little bit of speed here. But I do not have enough energy generation, especially in an up tier, which will be the majority of your games. SU-11s, LA-200s, Meteors with the older engines. Meteor Mark 3s actually win the dogfight versus you, believe it or not, because they can prolong the fight much better. Meteor Mark 8 goes up, and I'm able to get my guns on, basically. But look at this, it takes me so long to get my guns back on him, because I cannot roll anymore, that I'm forced to dive out yet again. If I had a plane with a decent roll rate, I probably would have been able to pitch up from there and try to shoot him down. Of course I would have been out of energy, it would have been extremely risky, but now he's diving on me and I'm going 400 kilometers an hour. I'm gonna bleed on. Yeah, it doesn't really work out. Now does it? Massive target as well. It's made from wood. Pilot snipes are pretty common, especially in the head-ons. And you just have no ability to dodge anything other than turning into one direction. This thing is very one-dimensional in a very literal sense. Once you start pulling on the stick, you basically have to force to that line. And if you don't, you are just gonna waste even more energy. So how do you fly this thing? Well, my honest recommendation is you just don't. It is just not what it used to be, and everyone is gonna run away from you. And if you commit to one turn and they do not stick the fight, you are gonna be out of energy. Unless it's something like a 162. You know, those kind of planes. The bad 7.0s. The SU-9 might struggle with you. The R2Y2 might have some problems with you, just because, well, they can't really get the nose on you. But in general, most planes are just gonna run circles around you, especially in the 2v1, especially in the current matchmaker where Russia goes so rampant. And the Meteor Mark 8 could have just ran away here, but instead he pitches back up and gives me the kill. And I can tell you how I completely outturned this guy and I outplayed him, but this guy killed himself at the end. Literally, because he bailed out, but that's not the point. And again, another one of these matches. Massive numbers disadvantage, and 7.0 Germany is in a pretty rough spot, and it's not so much because of the planes. Well, it's also because of the planes, but it's also just the people that play them. The better players don't want to play these planes. Most people that fly 7.0 Germany are the people that are just getting into 7.0, getting into this BR range. A lot of them are stock, a lot of them are the Squadron 262s, which aren't very great inherently either. And then a lower BR than the Squadron 262, you have the SU-11, which is probably one of the most busted planes in the entire jet range. It's 7.0 and it goes 920, it gets there extremely quickly, but I'll make a video on that thing relatively soon here. That thing is absolutely busted. It makes no sense. I don't know why it's still 7.0. It went up for a decent amount of time and then it went back down, and it's not because of the performance, it's because of the performance of the average players. But I'm gonna speed this up real quick and we're gonna go to the last fight, because this fight right here is exactly, this summarizes perfectly what I hate about this plane. So we got a meteor on our 6 and I'm trying to not go to the airfield as per usual, and we're gonna try and start a dogfight. At this point I'm not aware what meteor this is. If this is a Mark III, I'm gonna be in a little bit of trouble, but I'm gonna expect him not to be. That was a very bad assumption, because it turns out he is one. So we're gonna start off with a 1v1 versus the meteor. I'm gonna keep our speed a little bit high, go under him, try to make him compress, make him rip, and make him waste some energy. And we're gonna try to just run away now, because I should be a lot faster than this guy, and I will be. So here we go, we're outrunning this guy, not much of an issue here. Versus a Mark III meteor, you can easily run away. The second I see that tree, I'm not gonna take it. There's an R2Y2 coming in now as well, and he is gonna be able to run us down pretty easily here, so I need to be careful here. There's the R2Y2, he's sitting right above us. And I was hoping that the meteor as well as the R2Y2 would go for my teammate. A little bit of a dick move, yes, but when you're flying directly into it like that in an Arado, I'm gonna use you as bait and try to then turn around, kill these guys and try to get the win out of it. Unfortunately, the Arado does the worst thing and starts a dogfight, and he just instantly dies. And now I turned around, I'm not going fast enough to outrun the meteor anymore, and there's also an R2Y2 right next to him. So we go head on, we try to shoot a little bit, and I can't really roll it out of the way. Perfect speed to actually do it, and the meteor is kind of separated by a tiny margin. So now I need to be careful that the R2Y2 doesn't actually pull in here, and he almost manages to do so. And at this point I still feel pretty comfortable, because I'm able to rotate my plane, I'm able to actually roll a little bit. So I'm gonna go for the R2Y2 here and switch targets. I am trying to get my nose on. I'm really trying. And then I'm forced to break off from the R2Y2, because the Meteor Mark III is raid fighting on my 6. And the R2Y2 does the worst possible thing for me, and that is go vertical. So now I'm forced to go straight for a little bit and reset. Because if I pitch up there, the meteor will just instantly kill me. And now the R2Y2 is spraying at me from 700 meters and I'm only going 430 kilometers an hour. So I do what this thing is good at again. Go low to the ground, scrape it, instantly pitch up behind them. But try looking at my speed. I'm running out. And I'm going full aileron here. This is full aileron. It is not rolling whatsoever. And I'm able to outturn these guys. But I'm too slow. I am simply too slow. I'm falling out of the air and I'm trying to roll here. I am holding the roll key down and I can't. I cannot get the shot in because this plane does not do what you want it to do. Am I flying this thing a little bit wrong? Maybe, but this does not take away from it that the inherent problems of this plane, together with the fact that you're outnumbered every game due to the matchmaking, makes this thing borderline unplayable. And there you have it, the Ho 229 as per request. Hope you enjoyed it. See you all next week.